Welcome to the Seventh Planet Broadcasting special series, The Anunnaki. I am your host, Matt LaCroix. Join me as we journey across the ancient world in search of the hidden truth behind who the ancient gods of mankind really were. I am joined by Gerald Clark and Zechariah Lange.
Together, we will explore the hidden knowledge and unravel the mysteries left behind in the remains of ancient cultures from all over the world. Are we really alone in the universe, or has important information been kept secret from the masses that answer the questions to our hidden origins?
Could there be a common source from the megalithic ruins in the jungles of Mesoamerica to the great Egyptian Giza pyramid? Were the Anunnaki possibly the missing creators of these advanced cultures, hidden by the sands of time, jungles, and the editorial records inked by warring conquistadors?
Sumer is one of the earliest civilizations dating back to 3800 BC. It is often referred to as the cradle of civilization. The Sumerians are credited with having the first known writing system, advanced architecture, agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy, all of which they attributed to these sky gods. Ancient Sumerian people called them the Anunnaki, which means those who from Anu were sent to Ki, our Earth.
How did the Anunnaki come to Earth? Did spectroscopic analysis, while in retrograde orbit like a moving observatory, indicate that planet Ki had sufficient gold for their purposes?
Gold may be one of the most important elements in the universe. That would explain why an advanced civilization would go to great lengths to acquire it. Gold as a metal takes a front row seat when surveying human culture.
The precious metal belonged to the Mayan god Quetzalcoatl, but was not used as the basis for currency as it is now all over the world.
Gold's resistance to corrosion makes it virtually eternal. Even if left sunken at the bottom of the ocean floor for centuries, it remains pure.
Today, gold is used in modern space exploration where it lines integrated circuits, astronaut visors, and critical communications equipment. This is the case because gold reflects up to 98% of harmful solar radiation. Gold can also be found in monoatomic form.
What is monoatomic gold? Lawrence Gardner, in his book Genesis of the Grail Kings, describes finding a white, talcum-like powder beneath a stone in the floor of Hathor's temple on what is now known as Mount Sinai.
Based on modern science, when ingested by humans, it transforms the human neurological system into a superconductor. It goes by many names to include the Philosopher's Stone and the Elixir of Life.
The effects purported by the Anunnaki kingly lineage were long life and optimal spiritual energy. The Atrahasis cuneiform tablets explain that Homo sapiens were genetically altered to speed up their evolution so that they could become slaves to mine for the gold deep in the Abzu.
The real question is, are we still doing the same thing today? Let's look a little deeper into these forgotten gods of history. So who are these gods of the ancient world? Researchers are often asked, what do the Anunnaki look like?
Looking at the various statues portraying the Greek god Poseidon, it seems very clear they look just like us. Genesis 1:26 states, "Then God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness."
The Atrahasis predates the canonical Bible by thousands of years, describing an Anunnaki council meeting in which both Ninmah and Enki were tasked with creating a primitive worker to replace the Igigi in the mines. Is this not the source of the biblical Genesis 1:26?
All throughout history, from the Egyptians to the Greeks, we see names representing gods that show striking similarities to one another. To understand their influences upon history, we first have to decipher all the names to see the cross-cultural connections.
Many of these names, like Isis or Zeus, are commonly seen even today, but most think they are simply mythology. In digging deeper, you will find that many of these gods had different names given to them in practically every culture examined.
As part of an effort to make sense of who all the players were in the Sumerian records, a hand-drawn genealogy table was created. This early family tree evolved into an extensive chronology spanning the prehistory on Nibiru to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Between the last god table and this genealogy tree, when seen in relation to each other with their also known as namesakes, could they have actually been on a council together as described? To understand how the Anunnaki council worked, we have to look at their various ranks and where they fit in.
Much like we see today within the military and the government, the Anunnaki had their own hierarchical rank system. In this case, Anu held the top number 60.
Is it possible that human civilizations simply mimicked their Anunnaki ancestral governing structures, which are still evident here on planet Earth today?
As was shown earlier, Anu was depicted as the highest-ranking member of the Anunnaki Council of 12, his rank being the sexagesimal base number 60, and king of Nibiru.
The Sumerian records speak of Anu's white temple in the city of Uruk, where King Gilgamesh ruled.
Documents also describe Anu's trips to Ki, our Earth, to settle disputes and divide territory among his offspring previously shown composing the ruling council.
Enki and Enlil are sons of Anu, and both feel they're the rightful rulers of Earth. These two brothers have always had tension between them, as their views and morals constantly clash.
Could it be true that these alien half-brothers used Earth's resources, including mankind, as mere pieces in a chess match?
Is it possible that Enki and Enlil are simply actors on a bigger galactic stage, playing the dualistic role of creator and destroyer, the architect of dark and light?
Enlil is described as a military commander and lord of the air. He is the second-born son of Anu with his half-sister named Ki Arash. Enlil, heir of the Anunnaki throne, traveled to Earth approximately 5,000 years after Enki.
Enlil was known as the god of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and is often called Yahweh or Jehovah. What are the historical ramifications that Enlil were also known as the Greek god Zeus?
One of the most important influences of mankind seems to come from a being known as Enki. Enki was a scientist, geneticist, and master alchemist. He is known as the genetic father of mankind, or as Ta, or Osiris by the Egyptians, and Poseidon, lord of the sea.
Human sensing and perception systems are organized to include nerve ganglia along the spine that have measurable wavelengths coinciding with the colors of the visible light spectrum. Could Enki, the great scientist, have designed what the Hindu culture terms chakras within the human structure for some secret alternative purpose?
Could the nature of the chakra system imply that we are designed to become advanced, radiant light beings under some particular circumstances, known only to our creators and possibly by the masters of the Far East? The Atrahasis speaks of a birth goddess that was given responsibility to come up with a replacement worker during the Anunnaki Council meeting spawned by the Ajiji Rebellion. She has many names throughout the account to include Ninma, Belet Ili, and Ninhursag.
As the medical officer, she had facilities in the city of Shuruppak, the same city where Atrahasis, Noah, was the king, corroborating the biblical Genesis account. We know of her most notorious name from the Egyptians, where she is called Isis.
One of the most important continuous creation science teachings encoded in the Egyptian culture is the story of Isis, Osiris, and Horus.
Isis was not only the mother of humanity, having carried the first baby to term, but was also a very prominent being in the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Ningshita represents a very important figure in our history, for it seems he became mankind's teacher. Ningshita was frequently mentioned in the Enuma Elish, affiliated with the planet Mercury.
Ningshita is the second-born son of Enki and was highly scientific like his father. It is stated in the Enuma Elish that he helped perform the genetic upgrade to the primitive workers so they could procreate. Ningshita was given the caduceus symbol, which is still commonly seen today in the healthcare industry.
In 1945, a collection of important texts was found sealed underground in the Giza Plateau, known as the Nag Hammadi Library. The texts were written by a being known as Enoch, who was the original founder of the pagan religion.
The Nag Hammadi scriptures were found deliberately buried beneath the desert sands of Egypt to protect their safekeeping. The Gnostic scriptures, inspired by Hermetic writings, along with the Book of Enoch, appear to have common origins.
Now that we understand who the major players are, let's look into some of the evidence behind who some of these forgotten gods of mankind are. Sometimes you don't have to go too far to discover it.
From the ancient Mesopotamian region, modern-day Iraq, we find primitive images on money that portray what look like the Anunnaki gods. Marduk is likely portrayed as Babylon was his chosen city. Perhaps this hidden symbology is all over the world to those who are looking.
How tall do you think that seated god would be when standing next to the human on the left? Do we now have evidence showing that our understanding about Egyptian and Sumerian cultures could have been preceded by even earlier high civilizations in Turkey?
The ancient sites of Çatalhöyük and Göbekli Tepe have been dated accurately to 9,000 to 12,000 years old, respectively. Why does mainstream archaeology tell us that during this time, human beings were primitive and basic?
How could primitive people lacking tools have constructed such advanced cities with no outside influence? These are difficult but fundamental questions we have to ask.
One of the most important pieces of evidence we have for understanding what really happened in our past is told from the tablets known as the Epic of Atrahasis. The Atrahasis story is composed of 3 Akkadian and Old Babylonian version cuneiform tablets that were dated to circa 1700 BC.
The Atrahasis provides details supporting mankind's early creation account by order of the Anunnaki Council as a replacement for the Ajiji miners toiling deep in the Abzu of South Africa.
Atrahasis, the king of Shuruppak, also known as Ziusudra and Utnapishtim from the Epic of Gilgamesh, has striking similarities to that of the biblical Noah. Could they all be names for the same person?
The ancient Sumerian cities of Mesopotamia have been well documented in cuneiform tablets like the Sumerian Kings List, which records their age as well as their extensive time that some of the kings ruled, listing in 3,600 Shar reigns.
Important cities like Nippur and Sippar functioned as mission control centers and spaceports or launch sites like we see at Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Other cities like Bad Tabira show signs of advanced metallurgy and ore processing. What exactly was going on thousands of years ago in these ancient cities?
Let's take a deeper look at just where some of these cities of the gods really were. Arriving in ancient Mesopotamia thousands of years ago, we see that most human civilizations are found along the lower Tigris and Euphrates rivers, close to the mouth of the Persian Gulf. This cradle of civilization was found in what's known as the Fertile Crescent Valley because of the abundance of good soil for growing crops, thanks to the annual floods. Without irrigation techniques, much of this land is arid and difficult to live on.
Many of these ancient cities lie crumbling and forgotten in the deserts of Iraq and Syria. Why would so many important archaeological sites be so neglected and not uncovered for the rich knowledge they contain? From the city of Babylon to Eridu, it seems most of our earliest civilizations that show strong influences from the gods will remain nearly lost to time, buried below shifting desert sands.
Shuruppak was cited Ninmah's medical headquarters. The city was ruled by a famous king known as Ziusudra or Atrahasis. The biblical Noah was also king of the same city of Shuruppak when the famous flood came after 600 years as the ruler. This is the same location and time mentioned in the Atrahasis tablets, discussing a destructive flood about which the Anunnaki swore an oath not to inform the humans.
To the northeast in the Zagros Mountains of Turkey juts high to the heavens the great peak known as Mount Ararat. Archaeologists have uncovered the remnants of a great ship many believe could be Noah's Ark. Could the Sumerian Atrahasis flood story, also ending on Mount Ararat, be the source for the biblical tale involving Noah?
The ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur was named the capital of Sumer twice. During the second time, it was ruled by the god known as Nanar-Sin, who shows striking similarities to the Islamic god known as Allah. Could they perhaps be the same being?
According to the cuneiform texts, we were told that Nanar-Sin's father, Enlil, destroyed the city with nuclear weapons from previous anger he had for him. If you look deeper into the previous conflicts that occurred, like the rebel uprising in the South African mines, it becomes clear that the long-held grudges seem to remain with these gods.
Adding the reigns from the Sumerian kings list, we see the ancient city of Eridu could be approximately 420,000 years old, potentially the first city on Earth. Just think about the implications and how it could dramatically alter our perceptions of history.
Eridu was known as Earth Station 1 and was the location of Enki's famous Garden of Eden, which is located just southwest of the city of Ur, near the Euphrates River. So many consider the Garden of Eden to be simply a tall tale and nothing more than a fantasy.
All across the world, we see statues and monuments that bear the symbol of the trident and caduceus together. Could they represent Enki Poseidon and his son Ningshida working closely together?
A modern example of the symbols together is displayed in plain sight on a lamppost located in downtown Boston, Massachusetts. Also on the cornerstone of a Boston building, we see the caduceus and pineal or pine cone clearly positioned on the top. Finally, a crest portraying the Earth globe with an eagle on top, with a trident and caduceus, is clearly shown together in downtown Boston's 12th Post Office Square.
A coin from Virgin Islands dated to circa 1905 shows the trident and caduceus linked by a sickle. Vancouver Island was a crown colony of British North America from 1849 to 1866, after which it was united with British Columbia. The united colony joined the Canadian Confederation in 1871. Its flag depicts the trident and caduceus and pineal gland. Is this clear evidence of the Anunnaki being involved in early American and Canadian history?
So much of the knowledge and understanding of who we really are is due to the bold sacrifices of a mere handful of brave researchers and archaeologists. History is written by the victors, and the veil of truth about the Anunnaki origins and cultural influences are now being revealed. Do you have the courage to follow the evidence trail left for us? Join us again next episode as we venture into the deep jungles of Mesoamerica, encounter the great wizard kings of the Maya, and ponder the symbols and mysteries hidden in the realm of the winged serpent.